with that, we'll officially call the meeting in order. Is the meeting been properly posted and the vote been taken?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item number 2, our approval of minutes. 2.1 are minutes from the June 5th, 2023 meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 3 are communications. Communications this evening. So item number 4 is public hearing, review, and possible recommendation regarding James Kyle for Kyle Holdings, also known as Millennium. 4.1 is a public hearing on a request to consider a conditional use petition to allow for expansion of the outdoor storage accessory land use north of the industrial manufacturing building at 2121 Hobbs Drive, located in the manufacturing general MG zoning district. Again, applicant James Kyle for Kyle Holdings Millennium. With that, I would open the public hearing. And we'll have T start us off.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm not sure if anyone's gonna show up for James Kyle today, but this is at 2121 Hobbs Drive. They're looking to expand their outdoor storage area. There is a site plan in your packet. They do have there's a part in there that shows that it's an unfenced staging area. And this area is gonna be, I guess they get some deliveries after hours. So they wanted to be able to make it so the drivers could drop things off and then they would, and the next day, put that inside the fenced in area. We did go to the Development Review Committee the other day and they did not have any issues with this. And I can try to answer questions for you if you have any, but like I said, I thought the petitioner was gonna be here.
I don't know if anyone on the commission has any questions for T. Okay.
I had one clarification. You guys listed as a key issue, the site plan does not identify that concrete curbing will be located along the exterior of their paved driveway area. Is that a requirement?
It has been in the past. The Development Review Committee has asked for that. The previous or current approval for Millennium, the Development Review Committee did not require that of this site, the original site, just in the parking areas.
So we're talking about that drive that's from the truncated street.
From York Street.
From York Street.
You're correct.
And there's going to be a substantial amount of truck traffic.
Right, and the Development Review Committee did not request that they put curbing.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Any other questions for T? And not, I don't think we have, I know Deb is on virtually, but I don't think we have any other citizens who would wish to speak at this time on this issue. So with that, I would close the public hearing and move on to item number 4.2, which is consider a conditional use petition to allow for the expansion of the outdoor storage accessory land use north of the industrial manufacturing building at 2121 Hobbs Drive, located in the manufacturing general MG zoning district. Again, applicant James Kyle for Kyle Holdings Millennium. Anyone care to make a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 5 under business is review and possible recommendation to the common council of establishing a storm sewer easement on the city-owned property at 215 North 4th Street.
Just, Mr. Mayor, included in your packet is a parcel of property that the city recently purchased on North 4th Street. This has a storm sewer that runs through the middle of it. It dates back to the 1920s. We'd like to establish an easement for that particular storm sewer line and also look at putting an easement over basically the entire eastern 2/3 of the property for stormwater management. This is an area that drains down to Lake Comus. Immediately to the south of this, and that property, the city had purchased a number of years ago, installed a subsurface stormwater basin. So looking to see if the engineers can utilize this property as well to increase the stormwater storage and filtration as it flows down to the lake.
Any questions for Mark? Kevin?
You're gonna keep the parcel empty, I assume.
That would be, if we put an easement on it for a stormwater basin, yes, it would be
And
not be buildable.
how's that filtration system working? It's on. To the south of there.
After the first year, when we got rid of the problems that we had with the north wall of the basin collapsing, it has worked well. We just need to get in there. This lot will also give us better access to get our trucks down in there to clean out the traps that are built into that stormwater basin.
Thanks.
Kevin?
So Mark, that, existing facility to the south, does the city, so if I recall, the city, ended up owning the whole parcel. It divided the parcel.
We owned the house, the property, built the basement in the backyard, and then established an easement over the rear yard, and then sold the property off with an easement. That basically says you can't put any accessory structures or dig a hole in the backyard, because there's only about 2 feet of dirt on top of that basin.
So, okay, so actually the city, so the homeowner owns that
Correct.
with the easement, okay. One of the notes in this is that Mark identified that the city plans to work with the Lake Comus district concerning this, and I expressed to Mark we were happy to work with him. And that you were gonna move it to the engineers to talk about it. Would you think, Mark, that they would unify those?
I don't know at this point.
Okay, all right. And then, my only other point that I would just like to register, while we're here is there are 2 curb cuts on that property. Mark might want to keep one so that he can access it, but those curb cuts get used as parking access. And so I think we've got to clear that up with the engineer when we go through the process too. And finally, a detail point, I went back and looked at the survey history. The last survey is a sketch from 1954. That's not even a survey. And so I think it would be important if we grant the, I mean, if the body chooses to grant the easement, that we suggest that there be a real survey done of the property with the easement registered. Given for 104 years it hadn't happened.
We're in no rush.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kevin. Any other questions, comments regarding this issue? I don't know, I don't think we have a motion, so would anyone care to make a motion?
I'd make a motion to recommend to the common council the establishment of a storm sewer easement on the city-owned property at 215 North 4th Street encompassing the entirety of the parcel from its eastern border forward 100 feet.
There's a,
That is what you recommended, right, Mark?
Yes.
there's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Item number 6 is update on building and zoning related matters. Tina?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, so I just figured I'd give you a quick rundown of where we're at with our permits. To date, we're at 16 single-family homes, with the majority of those being in Glen Oaks. I actually have 12 permits sitting on my desk downstairs, waiting for contractors to come in to pay for. The majority of those being over at Harbor Club. So, and then I've also got 7 permits that are waiting to be reviewed. And then so that would bring us a total of like 35 permits. And then I do have, most of Toronto's projects have been early starts. Because we're still waiting for what they're doing for plumbing, and how things will work out with that. So they've got their 277 unit buildings, the 240 units, and a duplex. And then over at Harbor Club, Brian Pollard has 2 early starts over there. So with all of the permits that are waiting to be paid for and the ones that I have on my desk to be reviewed, and the early start will end up being at 42. So, which I think is our new record 32.
Yes.
I think 32 is the most that we've done, so. Kevin?
Yes.
So T, what's happened to the wait time between submission and permit approval? And what's happened, because here's, the reason I'm asking this question is, I don't think the city for some time has had the kind of building volume that we've approved recently with real projects. And I think it's critical when that happens to anticipate whether or not we might have to really look at supplementing staff. Like in this case, we have some flex staffing that can be added quickly. But I just think it's important for us to have a pulse on where we are on that. Because it would be horrible if we've approved this stuff and then because we don't have the right manpower to deal with it, all of a sudden it takes longer to get these things really going in the ground. And so I'm not, it's not a performance question, it's really a capacity question, and do we need to potentially think about more resources?
Yeah, it does take me a little bit longer right now, just because when they drop stuff off, they being either US Shelter or Harbor Club, they'll drop like 10 off at a time. But I do ask them which ones are their priority ones. So it does help a little bit, but yeah, sometimes in my weeks, it does, by code, I'm supposed to, if someone drops something off within 2 weeks, according to my code, I'm supposed to be able to get it back to them. I've been close to that. Sometimes I might be, maybe a week over that. But usually I talk to the builder and at least try to be like, because sometimes the builders are like, I'm not doing this for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And then most of them come in and say they want it tomorrow.
Right, and so when you say early starts, what does that mean? Because that's one thing I don't think as a plan commission over a decade and a half, I've heard anybody say.
Yeah, so an early start is footings and foundations only. We gave 2 of them to Harbor Club because we were dealing with, I believe part of their development, part part of their developers agreement allowed them to put up 4 homes.
Right.
And then, with talking with the fire department and everything, we didn't wanna have wood and, the fire department wanted to make sure that they could get there if there was a fire or EMS or something like that. So, we negotiated with them to give them some early starts. With Teronomy, most of the projects that they have are, commercial ones, and they actually got early starts from the state, which allows them to do footings and foundation only. Meaning that those were the only plans that were reviewed, so their plumbing plans weren't reviewed. HVAC plans weren't approved, so they just allow, usually it allows the state, I think, when the state's running behind a little bit, or it allows people to be able to get things in before winter. So, most of the time though, if everyone has everything in order, you don't have to do an early start, so. I don't like them, but.
Kevin, did you? Well,
Thank you. Do these early starts, particularly the ones that are provided or approved by the state, do they in any way affect your ability to do the necessary inspections?
No, because all they really allow them to do is just footings and foundations, so once they get to that part, they have to stop, until they get the proper permitting. So, and usually by then, they would have that as long as they're, submitting everything to the state. The state used to be 5 to 6 weeks, lead time, with like plumbing and certain things. So as long as they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, usually they're able to get the other permits by then, but if they don't, I don't let them go any farther, they can only just do the footings and the foundation.
And I guess that kind of relates back to what Kevin is suggesting or recommending. If you get really loaded up on that, or is the city gonna have the manpower necessary to stay ahead of things?
I mean, so right now, we have, Markley Services, we have Shannon Markley, most of you, I know who she is. So I am able to pull her off of certain things, and I could probably have her help me with, zoning. John Sorg, he does have his UDC building, so he can't do too many inspections for me, but he can do a few. And then, we also have, Jim DeLuca that does my commercial plumbing. So I don't really have anybody that I normally, to answer your question, I guess the answer would be sort of, I don't have, like I don't have anything definitive. But I do have some people that I can try to help me with in an emergency, but it's not like really set up yet.
This isn't a matter for this body, but as an observer, broader observer of city issues, I think that, given the financial production of growth, I think that, the city should, in its other committees, really seriously look at whether or not you're appropriately sourcing, the needs in this area. And I think it's incumbent to call upon what are the strategies to do that, how much of it becomes permanent, how much of it is taking advantage of near-term growth. But I think most of what we would read in this county is that it's probably pretty sustainable, so.
and I appreciate it. I know Brian and I talked a little bit about this last week, but if you want to add
I
to
was
some of
gonna
that
say
stuff, the
that-
rest of the commission.
Actually, T and I had a little conversation on that last week, talking about different sources we might be able to use. We discussed what he's got now, and my question for him was, if we were going to expand it, how would we find somebody that could be trained up and get the credentials they need? And it's funny is, he had mentioned that it helps when they've got construction experience. I've actually talked to somebody recently, and now they're looking into possibly going and getting their building inspection stuff, just because it's something they hadn't considered, and they've been out of construction for a few years.
Well, I know the condition, I don't know, but I have a feeling there are sufficient contingency funds that it could be addressed and really planned into next year. So I think we should get ahead of it, but I'm not in a position to do anything about it. It's just an opinion.
Yeah, I don't anticipate anything's gonna slow down for at least 3 or 4 years, which will be the duration of the work by Torontomy. And if, more land comes available for more houses, US Shelter, I don't think they're gonna slow down either, so.
Well,
Sorry.
no, that's okay.
Keep
No,
going.
that's stuff.
What else you doing?
Well, in Darien, it's relatively slow, so that's the only place that's not booming right now, but they do have, Bob Fettig over there has 5 commercial projects that he's looking at doing, but he's, trying to get state approved plans and things like that, so we might have some work, over in the village of Darien also, so. But yeah, other than, I mean, we still have a lot of people putting fences up and sheds and all the regular, things that happen this time of year, so. And then we still have some people looking at doing some projects in the industrial park, but, they seem to kind of be dragging their feet a little bit, but I think it's gonna, and I know we have a lot of future things like the beverage center. There's a lot of projects that are out there, who's the guy from Ace that's, bought the city property over by the.
Andy Teller.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I have a lot of projects that like somebody could show up tomorrow with too, but I haven't heard from anybody in a while, so I don't know if you know any.
I haven't heard
Yeah.
anything more in a while. I had asked probably about a year ago where
Sure.
things stood and.
But yeah, I think there's probably at least 3 or 4 zoning approved, decent sized projects. I think on Hobbs Drive, we have somebody that was looking at doing a rifle shooting range underground. And that all got approved, but, they kind of were in a hurry to get here, and then all of a sudden we haven't heard anything for a while. I haven't had time to follow up with them, but I'm sure if they were gonna do it, they'd be calling, so.
Do we have a, go ahead.
T, if memory serves, Myers was due to, where you get new approvals.
Yeah,
They
so
followed through on
they have not followed through with that yet. I believe it's in September when their 5 years, expires, and they were supposed to ask for an extension. I know that Mark reached out to them last week, I think
Yeah,
it was.
yeah, that's been a couple times now.
Yeah.
At least 3.
We did have one of the people from there come to one of our development review meetings, and I don't know if that person is still, with Myers or not, but, they are aware of it. We've reached out to them numerous times. And I believe if they don't get that extension, then they'll just have to start over, so. And then we do have it'll be coming to us as a conditional use, but I do have, the paperwork, for a Jersey Mike's coming in over by, Panera. So, be another place to eat, some place.
Which slot?
I believe that would have been where the jewelry store was. It's on the corner. I didn't give me an address. They're still filling stuff out, but
You might want to point them to the Sonoma Sellers spot because they could drive to the drive-through on the side.
Not approved.
Do we know, I was gonna ask if you have a tentative, open date for Cordova and.
so right now, the Qdoba is ahead of the Noodles. And I know that they were looking to try to be open by Labor Day for both of them, but I have a feeling the Qdoba might be able to open maybe in middle of August. Unless something crazy happens, but they're moving right along.
Back to that Myers question, refresh my memory, they do own that property, right?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay.
And the outlots in front of it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
All the
they-
way out to the highway?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know I get a lot
How
of,
deep is it, Mark? I can't remember.
16 acres.
Yeah.
yeah, and I do get a lot of people that I think they keep calling me asking when the Myers is coming in, because I think a lot of those outlots would fill in pretty quick if Myers did come, so. Unfortunately, I don't have much information to give them when they call them, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Anything else you wanna highlight?
I think that's what my department's up to.
Alright.
Great job, Jay.
Yeah. With that, there's no further business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right, there's a motion, is there a second?
Second? Second?
Yeah, all in favor of adjournment, signify by stating aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned at